The sun had just risen over the wide valley when the park ranger named Sam started his morning duty. The air was cool, and a soft wind moved through the tall trees. Sam had worked in this park for many years. He knew every path, every hill, and every strange sound the land could make. Most days were quiet and peaceful. That morning felt the same at first, calm and ordinary. Sam walked along a narrow trail near the rocky canyon. Birds sang from the branches, and small animals rushed away as he passed. His boots made light sounds against the ground. He enjoyed these early hours because the park felt alive but still calm. Visitors usually arrived later in the day. For now, it was just Sam and nature. As he moved closer to the canyon wall, Sam suddenly slowed his steps. He thought he heard something unusual. At first, it was so faint that he wondered if it was only the wind. He stopped walking and stood still. The sound came again. It was a weak crying noise. Sam frowned and looked around. The sound did not match any animal he knew well. He turned off his radio and listened carefully. The crying was soft but clear. It sounded scared and desperate. Sam felt a tight feeling in his chest. He had heard injured animals before, but this was different. The sound seemed trapped, like it was coming from somewhere it should not. Sam followed the sound slowly, step by step. It led him toward a large rock near the base of the canyon wall. The rock was old and rough, with marks left by time and weather. It looked solid and lifeless. Sam placed his hand on it and leaned closer. The crying came again, clearer now. His eyes widened in shock. The sound was coming from inside the rock. Sam stepped back quickly. His heart beat faster. Rocks do not make sounds, and nothing should be alive inside solid stone. He walked around the rock, checking every side. The crying followed him, still coming from within. Sam felt confused and uneasy. He had never seen anything like this before. He knelt down and studied the rock closely. There was a thin crack running along one side. It was narrow and partly hidden by dirt and moss. Sam brushed the dirt away with his glove. The crack was deeper than it first appeared. When the crying came again, it echoed faintly through that crack. Sam took a deep breath and tried to stay calm. He reminded himself to think clearly. Something was trapped behind the rock, not inside it. That made more sense, but it was still troubling. He looked up at the canyon wall and noticed signs of an old rock slide. Large stones had fallen and piled up long ago. The rock in front of him might be blocking something. Sam reached for his radio and tried to call for another ranger. The signal broke up and failed. The canyon walls often caused problems with communication. He sighed and clipped the radio back to his belt. He knew he could not ignore the cries. Whatever was trapped back there needed help. He sat down for a moment and thought about his next move. The park rules were clear about safety. He could not act without care. But waiting too long could be dangerous for whatever was crying. Sam stood up again and examined the area. The rock was heavy but not fully stuck to the ground. Smaller stones around it looked loose. Sam went back to his patrol bag and took out his tools. He always carried basic equipment for emergencies. He chose a small hammer and a metal wedge. His hands were steady, but his mind was full of questions. What if it was an injured animal? What if it was something else? He pushed those thoughts away and focused on the task. Before doing anything, Sam spoke softly toward the rock. He did not know why, but it felt right. He told the trapped creature that help was there. The crying slowed for a moment, then continued. That sound gave him strength. He carefully placed the wedge into a gap between the rock and the ground. Sam struck the wedge gently with the hammer. The sound echoed through the canyon. He paused and listened. The crying was still there. He struck again, a little harder this time. Dust fell from the rock, and it shifted just a little. Sam stepped back and watched closely. His mind raced as he worked. He thought about how long the sound might have been there. He wondered how many people had walked past this place without noticing. The thought made him uneasy. Nature was full of hidden places, and sometimes life could be trapped in silence. After several careful strikes, the rock moved enough to reveal a darker space behind it. Cold air rushed out, carrying the smell of earth and damp stone. The crying suddenly became louder. Sam froze, his breath caught in his throat. Whatever was behind the rock was close. He shined his flashlight into the opening, but the space was still mostly hidden. The light showed rough stone walls and deep shadows. Sam could tell this was not just a crack. It was a small cave, sealed off by fallen rocks long ago. His hands trembled slightly as he widened the opening a bit more. Sam did not know what he was about to find, but he knew one thing clearly. This was no ordinary patrol. Something unexpected was waiting in the darkness, and the entire day was about to change. Sam stood still for a long moment after opening the narrow space behind the rock. The crying was louder now, filling the small canyon with a sound that felt heavy and urgent. He held his flashlight firmly and aimed it into the dark space. The light moved slowly across the rough walls of the hidden cave. Shadows jumped and faded as he adjusted his grip. The cave was small but deep enough to hide something living. Sam spoke again in a calm and gentle voice. He wanted the trapped creature to know it was not alone. The crying did not stop, but it changed. It sounded less wild and more hopeful. That change gave Sam the courage to move closer. He knelt near the opening and leaned forward carefully. As the light moved deeper, Sam noticed the cave floor was covered with dirt and small stones. There were marks on the ground that looked like scratches made by movement. Something had been trying to escape. Sam felt a strong pull in his chest. He could not imagine how long the creature had been trapped in this dark place. He checked the rock again and realized the opening was still too small. If he reached inside without making more space, he could hurt the trapped life or get stuck himself. Sam decided he needed to move the rock more, but he had to do it safely. He stood up and wiped sweat from his forehead. Sam tried his radio again. This time, he climbed a few steps higher along the canyon path to get a better signal. He called for help and waited. The radio crackled, but there was no clear answer. He clenched his jaw in frustration. He knew help might come later, but the crying told him waiting was not the best choice. He returned to the rock and examined it from another angle. The stone was large, but it rested on smaller rocks that looked loose. If he worked slowly, he might be able to shift it enough without causing more trouble. Sam took a deep breath and focused. He placed the wedge again and struck it gently. The rock moved slightly, making a low grinding sound. Small stones rolled away and fell down the slope. Sam stepped back each time, watching carefully. He did not want the rock to slip suddenly. The crying paused for a second, then returned, louder than before. Sam spoke again, telling the trapped creature to stay calm. With steady effort, Sam managed to create a wider opening. Cold air rushed out again, stronger this time. The smell of damp earth filled the air. Sam shined the flashlight inside and finally saw movement. Two small eyes reflected the light from deep within the cave. Sam froze, his heart beating fast. The eyes blinked and shifted away from the light. A small shape moved deeper into the shadows. Sam felt relief wash over him. It was not something dangerous. It was small, scared, and alive. He lowered his voice and spoke slowly. He moved the flashlight away from the eyes to avoid frightening it more. The crying softened again, turning into quiet sounds of fear. Sam reached into his bag and took out a small bottle of water. He poured a little onto the ground near the opening, hoping the smell and sound would help. Minutes passed slowly. The canyon felt silent except for the soft sounds from inside the cave. Sam stayed patient. He knew rushing would only make things worse. Finally, the small shape moved closer to the opening. The flashlight revealed dirty fur and shaking legs. It was a small dog. The sight surprised Sam deeply. He had expected a wild animal, maybe something that lived in the canyon. Seeing a dog raised many questions. How did it get here? How long had it been trapped? Sam felt a mix of relief and concern. The dog did not come all the way out. It stayed just inside the cave, watching Sam closely. Its body trembled, and its eyes showed fear and exhaustion. Sam removed his hat and placed it gently on the ground. He stepped back a little to give the dog space. Sam spoke softly again, using simple sounds and a calm tone. He avoided sudden movements. The dog sniffed the air and took one small step forward. Then another. Its legs were weak, but it was trying. Sam felt proud of the small progress. Just then, The sound of footsteps echoed from the trail above. Sam looked up and saw another ranger approaching. It was Ben, his co-worker. Ben had finally received the radio call and hurried to the location. Sam waved quietly, signaling him to be careful. Ben joined Sam and quickly understood the situation. He did not speak loudly or move fast. Together, they watched the dog. Ben nodded and quietly set his bag down. He took out a soft cloth and placed it near the opening. The dog looked at both men, unsure but curious. The smell of water and clean fabric seemed to help. Slowly, the dog stepped out of the cave. Its body was thin and dirty, and it looked very tired. When it fully reached the light, it collapsed gently onto the ground. Sam moved forward and carefully wrapped the dog in his jacket. The dog did not resist. It was too weak and too relieved. Sam felt a deep sense of responsibility. This small life had survived in darkness, and now it needed care. Ben checked the area around the cave. He noticed signs of an old rockslide and pointed them out. It became clear that the dog had been trapped when the rocks fell and sealed the cave entrance. The dog had been waiting, crying, hoping someone would hear. Sam looked back at the rock, now moved aside enough to reveal the hidden space. He felt a strong emotion rise inside him. If he had not stopped to listen, this story would have ended differently. The thought stayed with him as they prepared to carry the dog to safety. The canyon returned to silence as the cries faded. But for Sam, the sound would never truly leave his mind. This rescue was only the beginning of a story that would soon reach far beyond the canyon walls. Sam and Ben moved slowly along the trail, careful with every step. Sam held the small dog close to his chest, wrapped tightly in his jacket. The dog was quiet now. Its eyes were half open, and its breathing was shallow but steady. Ben walked beside Sam, watching the path and clearing small stones out of the way. The canyon seemed different now, less silent, as if it had released a secret. When they reached a flatter part of the trail, Ben stopped and took out a small first aid kit. He knelt down and checked the dog gently. The dog did not move much. It was tired and weak, but still alive. Ben nodded with relief. He said the dog needed water and rest as soon as possible. Sam poured a small amount of water onto his hand and let the dog lick it slowly. He did not rush. Too much water could be harmful. The dog responded by lifting its head slightly. That small movement felt like a big victory. Sam smiled softly. They continued toward the ranger station. The walk felt longer than usual. Sam kept thinking about the cave and the rock. He wondered how long the dog had been trapped. Days, maybe weeks. The thought made his chest feel heavy. Yet the fact that the dog survived gave him hope. When they reached the station, other rangers noticed them right away. Everyone gathered quietly as Sam placed the dog on a clean blanket. One ranger brought more water. Another brought food, but they decided to wait before feeding the dog. They wanted to be careful. The station felt busy but calm. The dog rested on the blanket, its body slowly relaxing. Sam sat nearby, watching closely. He felt connected to the small life he had helped save. He reached out and gently touched the dog's head. The dog did not pull away. As time passed, the dog became more alert. It lifted its head and looked around the room. Its eyes moved from face to face, trying to understand where it was. There was fear still, but also curiosity. Sam spoke softly, using kind words and a calm voice. One of the rangers noticed a worn collar around the dog's neck. There was no tag. The collar looked old and damaged. This raised more questions. Someone must have owned this dog once. How did it end up deep in the canyon? No one had reported a missing dog recently, but that did not mean much. Ben suggested calling a local animal helper. They had experience with injured and lost animals. Sam agreed. While they waited, Sam shared the full story of how he heard the cries and found the cave. The other rangers listened closely. Many shook their heads in disbelief. Some said they had walked that trail many times and never noticed anything strange. The story spread quickly through the station. Phones rang as messages were sent. People outside the park began to hear about the rescue. A dog trapped behind a rock was not something people heard every day. Soon, visitors near the station asked questions. Sam stayed focused on the dog. He noticed small scars on its legs and dirt stuck deep in its fur. These were signs of struggle and long time in a harsh place. Still, the dog's eyes were bright. There was strength inside it. When the animal helper arrived, she checked the dog carefully. She said the dog was weak from hunger and lack of light, but it had no serious injuries. With care and time, it would recover. Those words brought relief to everyone in the room. The helper asked Sam if the dog had a name. Sam paused. He looked at the dog and thought about the cries that led him to the rock. He thought about survival and patience. He said the name Hope felt right. The helper smiled and agreed. Hope rested quietly as the helper prepared to take it for further care. Before leaving, Hope lifted its head and looked at Sam. Its tail moved slightly against the blanket. That small motion stayed with Sam. He felt something change inside him. Later that day, Sam returned to the canyon with Ben. They wanted to check the area again. The rock still sat where it had been moved aside. The cave opening was visible now. Standing there, Sam felt the weight of the place. It was just stone and earth, yet it held a powerful story. They examined the rock slide more closely. It was clear that the fall happened long ago. The cave must have been open before. The dog likely wandered inside and became trapped when the rocks fell. It was a simple accident with serious results. Ben suggested placing a warning sign near the area. Sam agreed. They also planned to block the cave safely so no other animal could get trapped again. The park was full of beauty, but it also held hidden dangers. As they finished their work, the sun moved lower in the sky. Light touched the canyon walls, painting them with warm colors. Sam took a final look at the rock. He remembered the first cry he heard. He realized how easy it would have been to ignore it. That night, Sam could not sleep easily. The sound of the crying returned in his thoughts, but now it ended differently. He knew Hope was safe. That knowledge brought comfort. The next days brought more attention. Visitors asked about the rescue. Some thanked Sam. Others said the story reminded them to listen more closely to the world around them. Sam accepted the words quietly. He did not see himself as a hero. He only listened and acted. Hope's recovery became a shared joy. Updates came from the helper, saying Hope was eating better and gaining strength. Each message lifted Sam's spirits. The small dog had touched many lives without even knowing it. Sam understood now that this story was bigger than a rescue. It was about awareness and care. The canyon had spoken, and someone listened. That simple act changed everything. The next morning, Sam returned to the ranger station earlier than usual. The sky was still pale, and the park felt calm again. Even though everything looked normal, Sam felt different inside. The rescue had stayed in his thoughts all night. He could still remember the sound of the crying and the moment Hope came out of the cave. As Sam checked his daily tasks, other rangers greeted him with warm smiles. Many of them asked about Hope. Sam shared the latest update he had received. Hope was eating small meals and resting well. The animal helper said the dog showed signs of trust and calmness already. Hearing this made everyone feel relieved. Visitors began arriving at the station, and some had already heard the story. A family asked Sam if the story was true. He nodded and explained what had happened in simple words. The parents listened closely, and the children looked amazed. One child said it sounded like something from a book. Sam smiled but said it was real and happened because someone listened. Later that day, Sam and Ben went back to the canyon again. They brought tools and safety signs. Their goal was to make sure the area around the cave would not cause trouble again. They worked carefully, moving smaller stones and placing a strong barrier in front of the opening. This time, it was done in a way that still allowed air to move but prevented entry. As they worked, Sam noticed how quiet the canyon felt now. The cries were gone, replaced by the soft sound of wind. The place no longer felt heavy. Ben noticed it too and said the canyon felt peaceful again. Sam agreed. It was as if the land itself was resting. While placing a warning sign, Sam paused and looked around. He thought about how many people passed through the park every year. Most came to enjoy nature, take photos, and relax. Few thought about the hidden stories under their feet. This rescue had shown him how much attention mattered. Back at the station, Sam received a call from the animal helper. She said Hope was getting stronger and had started walking around the care area. Hope even responded to its name. Sam felt a deep sense of happiness. He thanked her and asked if he could visit soon. She said yes. That afternoon, Sam drove to the care center. When he arrived, the helper greeted him and led him to a quiet room. Hope was resting on a soft bed. When Sam entered, Hope lifted its head and looked at him. After a moment, its tail moved slowly. Sam felt his chest tighten with emotion. He sat on the floor and spoke softly. Hope stood up slowly and walked toward him. Its steps were careful, but steady. When Hope reached Sam, it rested its head against his leg. Sam gently placed his hand on Hope's back. That simple moment meant more than words. The helper explained that Hope likely had lived with people before. Hope responded well to human voices and gentle touch. This made Sam wonder again how Hope ended up alone in the canyon. Maybe Hope wandered too far. Maybe someone searched but never found the right place. The truth might never be known. Over the next few days, the story of Hope continued to spread. A local paper wrote about the rescue. People sent kind messages to the park. Some offered to adopt Hope when the time came. Sam read these messages quietly. He was glad people cared. The park staff held a small meeting to talk about safety improvements. Sam shared what he learned from the rescue. He encouraged everyone to trust their senses and never ignore strange sounds. Even the smallest sign could matter. The team agreed and planned more regular checks of rocky areas. As Hope grew stronger, the helper said it would soon be ready for a new home. Sam felt mixed emotions. He was happy for Hope but also felt a deep bond. Ben noticed this and joked that Sam might become a dog owner soon. Sam laughed but did not answer right away. One evening, Sam walked alone along the trail near the canyon. The sun was low, and the sky was painted with soft colors. He stopped near the rock and stood quietly. He remembered the fear he felt that morning and how it turned into action. That moment had changed his routine life into something meaningful. Sam realized that being a ranger was not just about rules and patrols. It was about care, patience, and listening. Nature spoke in many ways. Sometimes it used sound, sometimes silence. Hope was a reminder of that truth. As days passed, Sam visited Hope often. Each visit showed more progress. Hope played gently, ate well, and trusted people again. The helper said Hope would soon need a final decision about adoption. Sam thought deeply about it. His life was busy, but he had space and time to care. He had already opened his heart. One evening, after a long walk in the park, Sam made his decision. He called the helper and said he wanted to adopt Hope. The helper was pleased and said it felt right. They agreed to complete the process soon. Sam ended the call and looked out at the quiet park. He felt grateful. What started as a strange sound in the canyon had led to a new chapter for both him and Hope. The story was not over yet, but it was moving toward something warm and hopeful. The day Sam brought Hope home began with clear skies and soft sunlight. The park was quiet as Sam finished his morning duties early. His heart felt light but full at the same time. Today was not just another workday. Today, Hope was coming home. Sam drove to the care center with calm excitement. When he arrived, the animal helper greeted him with a warm smile. She led him inside and brought Hope out on a simple leash. Hope looked stronger now. Its fur was cleaner, its steps more confident. When Hope saw Sam, its tail moved fast, and it walked straight toward him. Sam knelt down and greeted Hope softly. Hope pressed close to him, as if it remembered everything. The helper completed the final steps and handed the leash to Sam. She said Hope was ready for a new life. Sam thanked her for all the care and kindness. He promised to take good care of Hope. The ride home was quiet but peaceful. Hope sat on the seat beside Sam, looking out the window. Trees passed by, and sunlight moved across the road. Hope seemed calm, no longer afraid. Sam felt proud and thankful. A life once trapped in darkness was now free. When they arrived at Sam's small house near the park, Hope stepped out slowly. It sniffed the air and looked around. The yard was simple but open, with grass and space to move. Sam let Hope explore at its own pace. Hope walked carefully at first, then began to move more freely. Inside the house, Sam showed Hope a soft bed near the window. Hope circled it once and lay down. Sam watched quietly, letting Hope rest. He realized how tired Hope still was, not just in body but in spirit. Healing took time. Over the next few days, Sam and Hope built a gentle routine. Morning walks, quiet meals, and peaceful evenings became their shared life. Hope followed Sam around the house and waited by the door when Sam left for work. When Sam returned, Hope greeted him with joy every time. At the park, visitors often noticed Hope walking beside Sam. Many recognized the dog from the story they had heard. Some smiled and waved. Others stopped to ask questions. Sam answered kindly but simply. He said Hope was strong and brave. That was enough. Hope also became part of the ranger station. The other rangers welcomed the dog warmly. Hope lay quietly during meetings and walked calmly along trails. The presence of Hope brought comfort to many. Even on busy days, Hope seemed to remind everyone to slow down. One afternoon, Sam took Hope back to the canyon. He wanted to show Hope the place where everything began. They stood near the rock, now safely secured. Hope looked around calmly. There was no fear in its eyes. The canyon felt peaceful, filled only with wind and birds. Sam stood still and remembered the first cry he heard. He realized how easily that moment could have been missed. He placed his hand gently on Hope's head. Hope leaned into him, calm and safe. That moment felt complete. As weeks passed, the story of Hope continued to inspire people. Some visitors said they listened more closely during their walks. Others said they felt more connected to nature. Sam felt proud but also humble. He knew the rescue happened because he paid attention. Hope grew healthier each day. Its energy returned, and its eyes shined with trust. Sam watched this change with quiet happiness. Caring for Hope also changed Sam. He felt more patient, more aware, and more grateful. One evening, Sam sat on his porch while Hope rested beside him. The sky turned orange and soft blue. The park settled into silence. Sam thought about how life could change with a single sound. A small cry had led to a bond that would last for years. Sam understood now that some stories are hidden beneath stone and silence. They wait for someone to listen. He promised himself to always stay aware, not just as a ranger, but as a person. Hope lifted its head and looked at Sam. Its tail moved slowly. Sam smiled and gently touched Hope's back. Together, they watched the sun disappear behind the hills. The park returned to its quiet rhythm, but one thing had changed forever. A cry from behind a rock had brought hope, not just to a dog, but to everyone who heard the story. And so, the story ended not with shock, but with warmth, care, and a reminder that listening can change lives.